You may have seen our next guest during the Senate Banking Committee hearing on Equifax. She was dressed as a man from the Monopoly board game. Amanda Werner is our guest, Arbitration Campaign Manager for Public Citizen and Americans for Financial Reform. Amanda, welcome to the program. It's good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me, Stuart.
That was an extremely effective costume, and you made a big splash at the hearings there. Congratulations on that. Very good. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I could call attention to these important issues.
Okay. Now, what do you want to see happen to Equifax? I know you've got a long list of things that you want to do in terms of financial reform, but what would you do with Equifax particularly?
Sure. So I think, my number one priority and the reason that I dressed up as the Monopoly man was to call attention to Equifax and Wells Fargo's use of forced arbitration as essentially get-out-of-jail-free card when they break the law.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Senate is currently trying to pass legislation that would take away consumers' right to sue companies like Equifax and Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And we're trying to stop that.
So you're all about the access of consumers who have been messed with, their access to the courts as opposed to an arbitration panel. You don't want arbitration as things stand now. You want the lawyers to come in so you can sue Equifax. Is that basically it?
Well, it's actually even simpler than that. It's not that we don't want arbitration. It's that we want consumers to be able to choose whether they pursue arbitration or they join together with other consumers in a class action lawsuit. And I think when you're talking about the Equifax data breach, which affected, 3/4 of the adult population in the U.S., a class action lawsuit makes a lot more sense. You can't have 143 million separate arbitrations.
Would you like to see Equifax run out of town, run out of business?
I think that we definitely need a better system for credit reporting. Right now, the way that it works is consumers are essentially the product of these credit reporting bureaus. We're not actually their customers, so they don't feel accountable to us in any way. And right now, Equifax, I think, has shown the dangers of that. When they aren't accountable to us, they don't take care in handling our information.
I agree with you. I mean, I don't think the Equifax business model is set up with me, the consumer, my interests in mind. It's set up really for the banks and for lenders so that they can find out who's a good credit risk and who is not, so they can make loans or not make loans. Would you completely reverse that so that we consumers control our own information and what's done with it?
I would definitely like to see some serious reforms. I think one of the problems with Equifax is it kind of sits in a regulatory dead zone where no agency really has clear oversight over it. So, for instance, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has some oversight over Equifax when it comes to the accuracy of our credit reports. The FTC, however, is in charge of this data security piece. But the FTC can only come in after the fact and bring enforcement actions after there's already been a breach. So we need Congress to take some sort of action to not only fix the danger that we've seen now, but to give a clear supervisory authority to somewhere in the government to make sure that Equifax can't do this again.
Okay, Amanda, I think you made your point very well. That was brilliant staging. I'm not going to call it staging. It was just a very good costume in the right place at the right time, and you got on the show. Amanda, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and please tell your senators to vote no on SJ Res 47.
Got it. You got it in. You got it in. You should have had a banner or something.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Very good.